I'm tasked with giving the overview, the closing remarks about the end of day one. So the thing that I wanted to say is this has been a very incredible day for all of us, as I know all of you have felt this. I have the deepest and immense gratitude to offer these reflections for day one. And I want to thank Sydney Will Pride and, of course, my team at Equality Australia and our community partners, and all of you, the community, for this incredible opportunity to be able to gather, to dream, and to amplify. This is day one. This is the gathering, you know. The gathering is the most important day in the Pacific, in our lives as Pacific people. It is the day we all come together for the purpose. O le tātou tae ao. This is our morning. It is the day we see each other, we welcome each other for the magnificent rainbow colors that we all are. And today, we gather. Tomorrow, we dream, the dream that we were meant to live and uphold. And on Friday, we look forward to how we will amplify the lessons from the Gadigal lands of Sydney, of the Eora Nation, to what is the way forward. And what a day it's been. Starting off with Senator Wong this morning, reminding us that we have no choice but to deal with the world as it is. And that's not enough. We need to do better. We all need to be recognizing that all human beings are born free and equal, and all of us are equal before the law. All of us know that it is not the world we currently live in, and we need to change that. Mark Dreyfus told us that progress is possible, even if our journey is difficult, that we should encourage our new neighbors to do the same, for us to listen to perspectives that are different to ours, and to take them with you and use them to ensure that a lasting legacy is created. My own CEO, Anna Brown, laid it down as it was, as it is, and as it will be, that we support our First Nations people in their search for recognition and justice. We recognize the role that trailblazing 78ers stepped out of the bars and onto the streets for the first gay and lesbian Mardi Gras, which is why we are all here. And you are here now, in that space. And when you go back home, remember that we are all deserving of a life that is free and equal of respect. And then our very own independent expert for Sogi, Victor Mardi Gras Bolos, he gave us the blue threads of hope to hold in our hands and told us to think about that these are not here because of detention, that people are not here. We have people who are not here because of detention and access. That recognizing the pain and the strength of survivors amongst us today is really important in our struggle. And then we got real, really, really real. We heard from around the world in the regional spotlights. Taz Clay from Australia reminded us there's so much that's been done, but also so little has been done. We're talking about racism, but he doesn't think we've had the baseline conversations to unpack that even that work can get through. Kenita from the Caribbean checks in from there with climate change as one of the issues that we must deal with as vulnerable people, and that changing the laws does not change hearts and minds. Luz from Latin America reminded us that significant progress has been made in the last 20 years, but most importantly, governments headed by women have been responsible for most of the changes. And you know this, and I know this, the world knows this. Change is here, and it has a woman's face on it. Christina from Europe warned us that hate spreads way too easily these days, and it cannot be contained by national borders, as we've seen in Europe. Brenda from Southeast Asia reality checked us in how justice is delayed for trans people, resulting in not being able to live their authentic selves. Kim from Canada reminded us that abortion is a queer and trans issue too, and warned us that being under threat in North America with the clock being wound back on our rights. Heike from Asia reminded us that intersex people are everywhere and that they will stand together because they want what everyone else wants. And then we got stuck in the details. The right to health. Assistant Minister Jed Gurney told us that we know there is so much work to be done because we are a community with unique and complex health needs that has difficulty in finding health care, especially for young people. And then the Australian government made an amazing announcement. They will conduct the first ever national consultation on LGBTIQ health with LGBTIQ people, recognizing community-controlled and peer-led organizations as critical. And they announced the delivery of a 10-year national action plan for LGBTI health, developed by us, for us, through the establishment of an advisory group. Community needs determined by community, whoever they are, wherever they live. 26 million for research to find new and better ways to deliver for LGBTI communities' health. And this, can I say, is the largest investment by any government in Australia on LGBTI health. Co-designing that action plan, putting LGBTI people and those who work with us at the heart of progress. That's an amazing achievement. And you're all here to bear witness to that. That's amazing. Dr. Adam Bourne, laid it like it is. And this is a trigger warning, discussion of suicide issues. Research on disparities in health outcomes is conducted, found that rates of suicide attempts in the last 12 months are 13 times higher for LGBTIQ. And 1 in 3 of us have attempted suicide at some point in our lives, especially trans and gender diverse people where it's really, really high, And if that wasn't enough, we kicked it up a notch after lunch. We delved into sport. We learned that in pride and sport, Australia leads the world in this space with 20 or more sports in Australia with policies on trans inclusion in community sport. Ricky Coughlin reminded us that athletics is a sport for everyone, and there is a place in this sport for you, and spoke of the support from Athletics Australia. Yes, mateship, inclusion, diversity, and respecting the individual should be honored. We heard about the Human Rights Watch report. They're chasing us away from sport. We learned about the 10 IOC principle approach to decision-making and the mind-blowing fact that the IAAF claims it is not bound by the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. And we had some amazing fun as well in art and politics. My colleague, Dr. Raj, we learned that being fabulous often starts as a trauma, which reminds us that we are all flawed, and aren't we flawed, right? But it's more than the tokenistic ideas of glitter and festivities. It is about how we organize politically and socially. Being fabulous can mean occupying spaces where you are unapologetic in how you present yourself, and is about resistance, resisting that which oppresses and marginalizes us. Dr. Stardust reminded us that key social media platforms have advertently and inadvertently acted to block LGBTIQ content. Right? She gave us a manifesto for sex-positive social media and reminded us that algorithms cannot determine the gender of a person's nipples. You'll all remember that when you'll be watching your TikToks tonight. Okay? It cannot determine the size of your nipples. Felicia Brown-Acton and Jolene Mataele reminded us that beauty pageants provide a platform to showcase talents, pride, and culture, and that the Miss Galaxy enabled trans women and empowered them to break down stereotypes to promote inclusivity and to allow them to connect with their cultures. Then we talked about developments in education and digital security. Emily Dwyer presented on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, and how the failure to consider LGBTI people means that we are left behind and excluded. So when you hear all that UN rhetoric about the SDGs and leave no one behind, honey, we're already behind because we're not in the SDGs. You know, we are behind. And I've said this before, if you want to address the SDGs, don't look at the front of the queue. Don't look at the front of the queue. Go to the back of the queue where you'll find all of us. All of my LGBTI people are at the back because we're not in the SDGs. We heard from Jean Linis Dinko. She reminded us, my friend Lini, reminded us that we need to be building international solidarity networks, which is imperative in fighting LGBTI rights for the community in Myanmar. And Ajita gave us the reality that those who are arrested are often refused access to lawyers. Their phones are often taken, and they often face custodial violence. And how many of you in this room have actually faced that? How many of you? You know, it is a reality for us as LGBTI people. We talked about community responses to mental health. Honorable Mark Butler reminded us that medicalizing and stigmatizing intersex bodies mean that they are less likely to seek medical help later in life because of distrust and fear of the medical profession, and that peer support and community-led interventions are just as important as political interventions. And who could have forgotten? My dear friends at GPP, resourcing LGBTIQI movements for success. We learned from Matthew Hart and his colleagues, who are the funders of the LGBTI movements, as they demystified philanthropy for us with their report. And did you know that in Asia and Pacific region, they represent 5% of the total global funding, despite having over 55% of the world's population, with only US 800,000 of funding in Oceania, excluding Australia and New Zealand. And this is a very staggering statistic that you'll have nightmares about. Only 5 cents out of every $100 of philanthropic funding goes to LGBTI organizations. 5 cents for every $100 it comes to LGBTI funding, right? Imagine what we could do with 10 cents for every $100. Imagine what we could do with $1 out of every $100. Think about that. Think about that when we talk about disparities in funding. We talked about fairness and safety in our legal and justice system. We delved into policing, First Nations justice. You know, some amazing quotes. Parents will always think about getting married, that after getting married, asexuality will no longer exist, which makes them the subject to the issue of corrective rape, right? For trans and gender diverse is another beautiful quote. Our prison systems are very binary. Prisons for men and prisons for women. We are in danger from day one if we ever end up in prison. And look, my favorite quote of the whole session, I think it's clear, not just black fellas in general, but we start with intergenerational trauma. My mom, she's a part of, that's where our trauma comes from, with the whole idea of colonization, which we've just spoken about. Amazing, amazing session. Look, I'm going to close now because I just received a text that says, hey, your time is up. and there are 1,800 people that want to go to the reception. So in closing, I go to my 2 must-listen-to ancestors. Nelson Mandela said, to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others. It is not about decriminalization and removing our chains. It is, and always will be, living in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others. And of course, Harvey Milk said, hope will never be silent. Now, these words are particularly resonant in the context of our gathering today, We have come together to discuss some of the most pressing human rights issues facing the LGBTI community, including discrimination, violence, and marginalization. We've heard from activists, scholars, policymakers about the challenges we face, the status quo, but also about the incredible progress we have made in recent years, including some bloody amazing news from the Australian government today. Rest well tonight, my friends, for tomorrow we start to write the dream in our prayers, in our plans, and in our hearts. Tomorrow we speak today's gathering and dreams, and we come back ready to learn the tools of how to take those dreams and make them a reality. And as long as we continue to speak out, to organize, and to fight for our rights, we can hope that change is possible. So let us take this message of hope with us as we leave today, and let us never forget that we are not alone and that together we make a difference. We gather, we dream, we amplify. And today we gathered, tomorrow we dream, and we learn, and Friday we will amplify. Soifua ma'Ymania.
Thank you, Ymania. Thank you very, very much indeed for capturing those ideas and conversations that we've all covered today. I hope your hearts are as full as your minds. Thank you to all our speakers and panelists who've come together today to share your knowledge and your experiences. As Ymania mentioned, day 2 of the conference will focus on strategies and skills. That's the dreaming part. They can be used to champion change around the world. Many of you will have registered for roundtables and workshops that are being held tomorrow. The panel discussions will continue alongside these. So that brings us to the end of day 1 of this conference. Congratulations, and thank you for being here.